The thing is, they're all amazing people, every single one of them. They were kind and big smiles and big hearts, and it's just, that's what, it's just, every single one of them. You can't, I would be surprised if you could find somebody to say a negative thing about any of them.
The 20 people killed in the tragic limousine crash in Schoharie County have now all been identified.
And today, we honor them.
Today, Governor Cuomo ordered all flags across the state to be flown at half-staff starting Thursday to honor the victims. And following their autopsies at Albany Med, a dozen hearses traveled from the hospital to a funeral home in Amsterdam today. 17
of the 20 victims had ties to the Amsterdam area. Meanwhile, tributes continue at the scene of the crash. The Apple Barrel Country Store, a sawhorse at the crash site reads, "Our thoughts are with you," and there's a cross there for each life lost.
A sign inviting people to write on those crosses that are put up there to honor their loved ones and help them all find strength as they deal with this tragedy. And today we're learning more about the crash itself. State police and the NTSB, though, not planning any news conferences today.
Still, we have uncovered new details in the investigation. We once again have extensive team coverage.
Dan Levy is investigating inspection records on the limo's fleet of vehicles. Jackie Slater is speaking with a couple who says they were in the Prestige limo involved in the crash exactly 1 year before this accident.
Emily Burkhardt is at the crash scene where the investigation continues this hour, and first responders are speaking about what they saw. And Asa Stakel is looking into the past of the limo company's owner, including his ties to the FBI.
We begin with new information on the inspection records of the vehicles owned by Prestige Limousine in Saratoga County.
We've uncovered new information on the limo involved in the crash. Inspection records show violations and safety issues which went unaddressed.
Dan Levy is investigating, and he starts our team coverage. He's live in the newsroom. Dan?
Benita, Jerry, good evening. The last inspection that was done on the 2001 Ford Excursion limousine involved in Saturday's horrific crash was 32 days before the tragedy. Now, that inspection report dated September 4th, posted on a U.S. Department of Transportation website, lists 14 violations. Some of the violations, though, have nothing at all to do with the mechanical soundness of the limo. For example, the name of the company that's operating the vehicle needs to be on display, and the U.S. DOT certification number also needs to be in plain view, and the inspection report says they weren't. In addition, the report says the limo was being operated and carrying more passengers than it's designed to carry by the manufacturer. Keep in mind the vehicle had been modified. Also, the brake malfunction indicator wasn't working properly. Anyone who drives a car knows that that is the dashboard warning light that tells the driver that something might be wrong with the brakes. Well, the latest inspection report also cites defective windshield wipers, in addition to operating the vehicle without any proof that there had been periodic inspections. And one final note, the report indicates that the company failed to correct defects from a previous inspection. So we reached out today to both state and federal authorities, hoping that they could elaborate on that report. Haven't heard back from them, guys.
And were there any fines or penalties imposed because of the failed inspection?
Benita, not clear at this point. Certainly one of the many questions that I had for the state and federal officials that we didn't hear back from. I should point out, though, that late today we received a statement from an attorney who represents the wife, now the widow of the limousine driver, Scott Lisanickia. And the statement reads that Scott was a loving and caring man who never would have knowingly put others in harm's way. And the statement goes on to say that the family believes that unbeknownst to Scott, he was provided with a vehicle that was neither roadworthy nor safe for any of its occupants. Certainly not the last we've heard of this controversy as the investigation continues.
Sure, and then there are the questions, Dan, as to how could this still be out on the road if it had so many violations and wasn't passing inspections, and who's keeping tabs on all this?
A lot of people asking that very question.
Indeed.
How could they let that car back out? But we'll find out.
Dan, thank you. Well, there are also reports the victims may have been concerned about the condition of the limo. The New York Times reporting one of the victims sent a text to a friend saying, quote, The motor is making everyone deaf. Now, state police talked about texts at the news conference that we were at yesterday. Jerry, you were there, and they are looking into this, and they're asking anyone who may have been in contact with the victims via texting or on social media to call them. And that number to call, it's on your screen. It's 518-630-1700.
Now, this next piece of the story is really something. It looks like the vehicle involved in the crash may have been up for sale on Craigslist just 2 days before the crash. An alert viewer found the ad and sent it into our news tips line, did some digging and found it connected to Hazy Limousine in Gansevoort. We called and got a recording saying the number had been changed, disconnected, or was no longer in service. Now, the ad says it's a 2001 Ford Excursion limo, that it was in excellent condition, and the asking price was $9,000.
And we've heard from friends of the victims who said they were supposed to be in that limo but canceled at the last minute. Well, tonight we're hearing from a couple who says they were in that vehicle exactly 1 year before this accident.
Andrew LaRose and his wife say their experience with Prestige Limousine was a nightmare from start to finish. Jackie Slater joins us live now from the Saratoga newsroom with those details. Jackie?
Jerry, Benita, you know, it's hard to track down this business. It's had different names, different addresses, all associated with the same owner. So when I first met Andrew LaRose, the first question I asked him was, how did you find them? Well, he said at the time they were known as Saratoga Luxury Limousine. There was a website, which we should note is now down. And on the website, there were pictures of pristine vehicles. He says when the limo arrived on their wedding day, it was a very different scenario. Take a look at this picture here. This photo taken on October 6th, 2017. And that is Scott Lisanisha, the man who has been identified as the driver in the Schoharie crash. And he says Scott was over an hour late coming to pick up the wedding party. He says they had made arrangements to have both the excursion limo as well as a regular stretch to carry additional guests, but only the excursion showed up. He said first impression was the vehicle was old, there was visible rust and duct tape painted white to blend in. He also said that day the air conditioning was not working and the vehicle made noises when accelerating that caused them to be concerned. He said things got worse as the day went on, with Scott, the driver, repeatedly leaving them stranded. They waited 45 minutes after the church service, and again, Scott was late to arrive to shuttle guests back to a nearby hotel. In addition to all of that, Andy says the driving itself was erratic.
When he came back to the reception, I noticed there were empty beer cans in the back. I noticed that he had a second passenger sitting shotgun right next to him. Then I asked him, who was this? And then he started getting pretty upset with me, and you know, one thing led to another, and vulgarity was used by him, and it was my wedding day, so I took a step back, waited a few days, and I contacted the manager, and he could have cared less.
And Andy says that they did reach out to management after the event. He said his sister also got involved. There are emails back and forth that I have seen. They promised him a full refund, only gave him half of his money back. And he said after seeing this accident, he wanted to speak out because he wants the case against this company to be very strong. He does not feel that they should be allowed to ever operate again.
You know, Jackie, just wondering, what an awful experience for this couple, first of all, but did they file any formal complaints, whether it was at the Better Business Bureau or the Department of Transportation?
Yeah, Jerry, he said like many people, when you experience something bad like this, you kind of just want to put it behind you, and that's what they did. He said they tried to focus on the good of their wedding day, but they did post some very negative reviews on multiple websites. But again, a lot of these websites and a Facebook page associated with the business are now down. So it's hard to find those reviews if you did happen to stumble upon a phone number that would get you in touch with the company.
Oh, all right, Jackie, thanks very much. And I just wonder at this point if we're going to hear more stories like this come out about experiences with the company.
Yeah.
We'll wait and see.
Following an emotional vigil attended by more than 1,000 people in Amsterdam last night, students and teachers headed back to school today. One of the victims, Abby Jackson, was a teacher in the school district. The president of the Amsterdam Teachers Association says Jackson became a teacher because she loved working with children. Jackson was one of 4 sisters killed in the crash. Grief counselors are on hand to help students and teachers in the Amsterdam School District cope with this loss. Another vigil will be held tomorrow night in Schoharie to remember those killed. It's set for 6:30 at the Schoharie Central School Gymnasium. And we'll continue bringing you comprehensive team coverage on this story. We have crews in Schoharie County where investigators continue combing through the evidence. We're also paying extra attention to the stories of grieving and remembering the lives lost.
For online coverage, be sure to go to our website, WNYT.com. We're also on Facebook and Twitter. You can also get instant alerts by downloading the News Channel 13 app.
This is a conversation wherever you went today. People were talking about this.
And I have a feeling it's going to continue like that for some time.
Yeah, really the only good out of this part of the conversation is wherever you went, it at least felt nice outside. It was definitely not fall-like.
Yep.
Really felt more like late summer.
Yep, you're taking a look here at Bennington, Vermont. I noticed first I stepped out the door, I went, wow, what a change from yesterday morning.
Yeah.
But Bob Kovacic here now. He's in the Weather Center telling us what we can expect going forward. Hey, Bob.
All right, Jerry and Benita. Indeed, as expected, we broke out today with the sunshine and temperatures shooting up very nicely across the area. A lot of places in the high 70s. 73 right now at Southern Vermont College in Bennington, looking over toward the Green Mountains. Hardly any wind there at all. Down in Schenectady, a few clouds drifting by, 80 degrees with south breeze at 4 miles per hour. And our National Grid First Warning Cam looking over toward the casino site. And a great October evening weather-wise, warm and dry. Temperatures gradually dropping back to the 70s, clear, mild. Even by 10 o'clock, it'll be right around 70 degrees. So a very mild night tonight. We'll do it again tomorrow. And we'll talk about the rest of the work week into the coming weekend coming up. Jerry.
All right, thank you, Bob. Well, now to the big story we've been following all day in Washington. UN Ambassador Nikki Haley stepping down at the end of the year.
Jim Cambrick live over at the Right Now News Center. He's got these developments. Jim?
Former Ambassador Haley met with the president today at the Oval Office, and the president confirms he accepted her resignation. Trump called Haley a special person and says she told him 6 months ago she might want to take some time off. Haley is 46 years old and says she has no immediate plans. She denies she's running for president in 2020. Haley is the former governor of South Carolina. She and Trump tangled before he won the 2016 presidential race. This hour, Democrats say they're concerned about Haley's departure. The president has not tipped his hand as to a potential replacement. Jerry and Benita, back to you.
All right, Jim, thank you. And coming up, day one.
Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh diving into his new job in Washington.
Plus, our team coverage continues on the investigation into the deadly limo crash in Schoharie. What we've learned about the owner of the limo company.
This is so awesome. You know, the kids are going to feel so welcome.
And now one school is using inspirational bathrooms to brighten the spirits of students.
Coverage you can trust. With Benita Zahn, Jerry Gretzinger, Chief Meteorologist Bob Kovacic, and Meteorologist Paul Cayano. This is News Channel 13, live at 4.
We're back now with today's military hero. We salute Corporal Harry Bazakis from Troy. He served in Europe during World War II. We thank you for your service.
The owner of the limo company involved in the deadly Schoharie crash was well known to law enforcement.
He's a Pakistani immigrant, Shahid Hussain, and before the tragedy, authorities knew him best as a paid government informant in the investigation of domestic terrorist threats after the September 11th attacks.
Asa Stako looks at his history.
We don't have his picture, and troopers say he's back in his native Pakistan. But Mark Mulholland has talked with limo company owner Shahid Malik Hussain face to face. Back in 2009, Hussain agreed to let Mark into his Wilton office without a camera when News Channel 13 was investigating the rundown Crest Inn suites and cottages. Beyond the allegedly faulty wiring, unsafe water, and raw sewage dumping at his property, he told Mark he was an FBI informant. This is from Mark's report back in 2009.
When he's not running this little motel, he's working as an informant for the FBI. He worked on behalf of the feds to bring down 4 alleged terrorists just last week in the Bronx. Police say they plotted to bomb synagogues and shoot down a military plane at Stewart Airport. And he was the informant in the terror case that led to the conviction of an Albany pizza shop owner and the leader of a local mosque.
According to our reporting back in 2006, Hussain's job as an informant with the FBI was to infiltrate potential terror cells. Hussain became an informant to avoid punishment associated with charges that he illegally got immigrants' driver's licenses. And now Hussain is facing problems again because of a driver's license.
We inspected the vehicle just last month. It failed the inspection. The driver did not have the appropriate license. So I think the owner of this company, the owner of Prestige, has a lot of questions to answer.
The FBI sent us a statement today and said it is their policy to neither confirm nor deny the identity of their sources. We made several attempts to get in touch with Hussein, but we were unsuccessful. Asa Stakel, News Channel 13.
Well, Hurricane Michael is trending toward the Florida Panhandle.
Bob and Paul have the latest on the track of the powerful storm. That's next in your first warning forecast. Plus, a wild crash in Texas caught on camera. Why an SUV went flying off the road.
And what was it like for the first responders on the scene of that deadly crash in Schoharie? We're going to hear from one of them at 4:30.
Now, your first warning forecast with Chief Meteorologist Bob Cavalli and Meteorologist Paul Cayano.
And good afternoon, everybody. Well, Paul, once again, we're dealing with a strengthening hurricane, Cat 2, and the next advisory in about an hour could ramp it up to a Cat 3. Folks in the Florida Panhandle will have to be on guard. This could be a really serious hit.
Yeah, and unlike Florence, where it seems like we had 2 weeks to watch it, this one ramped up pretty quickly in the southern Gulf, and Category 3 is nothing to mess with.
No.
And the Hurricane Hunter aircraft, I was just looking, is flying into this thing right now. It's going to have a fresh look with new data, so we're going to pass that along, and the forecasters at the Hurricane Center are really going to get down and dirty, try to nail this thing down where it's going to be.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, we'll talk about that coming up in Tag Team Weather. Beautiful day today up to Ed and Lake Placid. A lot of foliage beginning to show up finally across the Adirondack Park, and we'll have the new foliage report for you a little bit later on in the week on Thursday. In our weather headlines this afternoon, warmth stays with us through the day tomorrow, even into the early part of the day on Thursday. Showers, though, come through Thursday, not really from the tropical system, but from a frontal boundary crossing the area that will deliver some chillier weather on Friday and Saturday. Holding to 80 degrees right now. Look at these numbers at 4:15. 80s, close to 80, upper 70s, warm, dry across all of eastern New York and western New England, with most places reporting a fair amount of sunshine. Radar is wide open as far as we're concerned. Our next weather change will come from a frontal boundary. You can see that frontal boundary initiating a pretty large area of showers and storms all the way from the Great Lakes down to the Gulf Coast, even a little snow behind it in Colorado. And you can see kind of the northern fringe of some rain bands far, far ahead of Hurricane Michael, which Paul is going to talk about. This hurricane is potentially catastrophic if it becomes a Category 3.
Yeah, and even if it doesn't, a lot of wind, a lot of surge, just because of the way the coast lines up in this particular part of the country. Right along here in the Appalachian Bay, water tends to build up. And you could see the symmetrical shape here of the hurricane as it gains strength in the Gulf of Mexico. Sea surface temperatures are plenty warm enough, and the wind shear is low enough that that eye is really becoming much more well-defined. And you could see during the course of the day, the thunderstorm sort of wrapping around the eye. If we get that full, complete circle of thunderstorms around the eye center and the eye clears out, we could be looking at a continuation of the rapidly intensifying storm over the next several hours. And you can see it's making steady progress toward the Gulf Coast of Florida. And you can see here that we still have 110-mile-per-hour winds. That's of 2 p.m. Gusts to 130, moving steadily to the north at 12. But the track takes it a little bit to the east of north as we get deeper into the night tonight. But notice the Hurricane Center is forecasting it, if not in the next advisory, then by midnight tonight, for this to become a Category 3 hurricane, which means winds of over 110 miles per hour as it makes landfall sometime in the early afternoon tomorrow. And then as it moves inland, of course, wind speeds will diminish, but we still have to deal with a lot of rainfall and other effects of this storm as it moves ashore. And of course, it's going to bring a bunch of rain also to the Carolinas, which have already received a ton of rain from Florence. So that's not good news either. Even in a weakened state, this system can potentially produce some flash flooding. And you can see how far south it comes to New York State. So we're really not concerned too much about the rainfall effects here, but we'll track it as we get toward the weekend. Bob.
All right, Paul, let's take a look at our hour-by-hour forecast as we head through the day tomorrow. And overnight tonight, no rain around, just a few patchy clouds tonight, maybe some patches of fog to begin the day on Wednesday. Another warm day tomorrow. Temperatures will soar to the upper 70s and low 80s with a blend of clouds and sun tomorrow afternoon. Here comes the frontal boundary approaching from the west on Thursday. That frontal boundary pushing a band of showers, maybe some bursts of heavy rain through here Thursday afternoon into Thursday evening, and that will deliver quite a bit of cooler weather later in the work week into the weekend. 66, a mild night tonight. Partly cloudy, patchy areas of fog late tonight. 81 tomorrow. Any clouds and fog early quickly give way to a partly to mostly sunny sky. Warm, south breeze a bit gusty. 7-day planner will get a strong chance of a round of showers coming through. Maybe some bursts of heavy rain, 73. And we get to the day on Friday, 56. Cooler. The weekend looks coolish. Highs in the 50s, lows in the 30s, much more typical of October.
Like your pink ensemble today.
Hey, I'm still in a spring-summer mode.
That's it, Bob. Okay. Still to come, an unexpected visitor.
A bear cub in Wisconsin took a welcome sign outside a home literally. How the homeowner came to the animal's rescue.
And look out, a near miss for a cyclist in North Carolina. When a passing car hits a deer, throwing the animal into the air. New Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh is hearing cases before the court today.
Kavanaugh asked questions of both sides in arguments over increased prison sentences for repeat offenders. Chief Justice John Roberts welcomed Kavanaugh on behalf of the entire court. It comes a day after Kavanaugh took part in a ceremonial swearing in at the White House.
My goal is to be a great justice for all Americans.
This was Trump's second appointment to the High Court in less than 2 years. Kavanaugh announced all 4 of his newly hired law clerks are women.
A Minnesota teacher has resigned after a message allegedly appeared on her Twitter account suggesting someone assassinate new U.S. Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh. The special education teacher has since deleted her Twitter account. The tweet allegedly read, quote, "So who's going to take one for the team and kill Kavanaugh?" The FBI in Minneapolis says it's aware of the tweet.
Dashcam video captures a scary moment when an SUV loses control on a wet highway. The crash, which everyone survived, happened southeast of Dallas. Just check that out. The SUV hit 4 people, 2 police officers and 2 firefighters who were standing in front of a car involved in a single vehicle crash. Only one of the 4 sustained serious injuries. Police said the driver of the SUV was not injured and was not intoxicated.
This video could be disturbing. A pack of cyclists in North Carolina got the shock of a lifetime when a deer jumped out in front of their car. The deer was hit and it flew through the air near the cyclists, one of which ducked, thinking the deer was heading right for him. The footage was captured by a cycle camera. None of the cyclists was injured, but the cyclist who captured the video said the deer did not survive. He believes the driver of the vehicle did continue, though, without even stopping.
Well, a Wisconsin man woke up to sounds of smashing, crashing, and growls this weekend. Turns out it was a bear breaking into his home. John Eisen says he found the black bear rummaging through his living room. He says his first instinct was to protect his family, so he returned to his bedroom and grabbed his pistol. But when he came back out, he realized the bear was just a cub trying to escape. He opened a door to help the bear out.
The bird was looking for his honeypot.
Yes, but he was in the wrong place. Yeah.
Here's what we're working on in our next half hour.
We continue our coverage on the deadly limousine accident in Schoharie County, and we'll hear from first responders on the scene right after that crash.
And questions remain about the safety of the intersection where the limo went through that stop sign. John Craig investigates.
Now at 4:30, News Channel 13 live at 4 continues.
This hour, investigators still trying to determine how a limousine crashed on Saturday in Schoharie, killing 20 people.
The victims have now all been identified by state police. However, troopers and the NTSB say they will not be holding news conferences today to discuss updates to their investigations. Authorities remain on scene at the crash site, the intersection of routes 30 and 30A in Schoharie.
An abundance of counseling services are being offered to friends and family of the 20 victims killed in Saturday's crash. And as I reported yesterday, those same resources are needed for and being provided to the first responders at the scene.
Emily Burkhardt got a chance to speak with 2 local fire chiefs who say Saturday's crash is continuing to affect their personal and professional lives. She's live in Schoharie now. Emily?
Jerry, Benita, I can tell you that those local fire volunteers do several training exercises every month, but they say absolutely nothing could have prepared them for the scene that they came to on Saturday. Take a look at this new memorial that's been put up here at the crash site outside of the Apple Barrel Country Store. A more permanent memorial with 20 wooden crosses nailed to a sawhorse has been put up. Community members, family members, and first responders have been coming to leave flowers and write messages about their loved ones on those crosses all day. Another vigil will be held tomorrow night at the Schoharie Central School District at 6:30. A debriefing will also take place at the Schoharie Volunteer Fire Department this evening to give those first responders resources to help them grieve. Esperance Fire Chief Matthew Deffer tells me that social media and media coverage in general is part of what makes this so hard for those first responders. Of course, everyone wants answers as to how and why this horrific crash happened, but the responders can't unsee what happened here at the site. And now they're seeing pictures of those 20 people before the crash. Deffer says they do what they have to in the moment, but once they get back to the firehouse and start watching the coverage, the gravity of what happened starts to set in.
Now you see different things on the media, Facebook, of these precious families that have kids of their own that were just married. You know, that's what really breaks us down, seeing this and wishing that there was some more we could do.
Again, that memorial will take place at the Schoharie Central School District tomorrow night at 6:30. Coming up on News Channel 13 live at 5:30. I'll have more from Deffer. He says he heard that limousine go by when he was at a gas station on Saturday afternoon. He describes what he thought when he heard that very noisy car going by. I'll share some of his thoughts about that coming up on News Channel 13 live at 5:30. Reporting live in Schoharie County, Emily Burkhardt, News Channel 13. Jerry, Benita.
All right, Emily, thank you. And then speaking with somebody yesterday from a critical incident support team that these folks will be availing themselves of. It's very important that they do get this kind of support. And other organizations nationwide have been offering to come in and, you know, fill the void in case they need some time off.
It's a lot to come to grips with.
Tremendously. Well, there's still much the NTSB and state police are hoping to learn as they continue examining the crash scene.
We know that intersection has been reconfigured more than once. Today, John Craig took a look at speed limits in that area.
In the village of Schoharie that seems to turn back the clock to a simpler time, people here wish they could turn back the clock to early Saturday before the fatal accident that took 20 lives. Just outside the village, federal and state investigators are back on the scene. They're in the ditch where the modified 2001 Ford Excursion stretch limousine crashed Saturday afternoon. 18 in the car and 2 bystanders were killed. The NTSB team took measurements and gathered further evidence in the parking lot of the Apple Barrel Country Store. The speed limit in front of the store is 50 miles an hour, which is less than the speed limit on Route 30 that comes down the hill. This is the last posted speed limit, 55 on Route 30, before you get to the bottom of the hill. I'll show you. Let's go for a ride. Even though tractor trailers are not allowed on Route 30, there are still those downhill signs. They're posted along with the speed limit of 55. One neighbor we spoke with, who has lived here all his life, said he thinks the posted signs are fine if people pay attention. But except for the slight curve, it's a straight shot to the T and the fatal intersection. And now, along with the memorial flowers, is this sawhorse with 20 wooden crosses plus pens. The store owners are encouraging mourners to make a mark, leave a message that they hope is the real lasting memory. Also posted there, no media signs. The Apple Barrel owners want people to feel comfortable to come down and not be asked again and again about this. In Schoharie, John Craig, News Channel 13.
Our coverage on this crash is far from over, and we continue uncovering new information on the investigation, so be sure to stay with us both on air and online for new developments.
We're also posting updates to our Facebook and Twitter pages. You can get instant alerts by downloading the News Channel 13 app.